Good to go?
Yes.
All right, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and kick things off. Thank you for attending the April 1st zoning committee work session. We are meeting this evening in room 267 at the Charlotte Mecklenburg Government Center. My name is Andrew Blumenthal. It is my pleasure to serve as the chairman of the zoning committee. This meeting is being streamed online via the planning department's YouTube page in accordance with all applicable meeting statutes. Requirements for notice, access, and minutes are being met by electronic means as well. A few quick orders of business. Hopefully you're all aware of these by now. Please keep your mic muted when not speaking and state your name when making a motion or a second. The public hearings for these zoning petitions that we're hearing this evening have been held at a previous date in front of Charlotte City Council and the zoning committee. As an important reminder, this meeting does not serve as a continuation of those hearings. Therefore, there will be no public input unless the committee has a specific question, in which case we will suspend the session and ask the petitioner directly. Let's get things kicked off with introductions, starting with our committee members. To my right with Commissioner McDonald.
Teresa McDonald, Planning Commission.
Robin Stewart, Planning Commission.
Shauna Neely, Planning Commission.
Erin Shaw, Planning Commission.
Rick Winiker, Planning Commission.
Clayton Sealy, Planning Commission.
Thank you very much. And with staff, starting with Raquel, please.
Raquel Jones, Planning Staff.
Stuart Valzonis, Planning Staff.
Michael Russell, Planning Staff.
Max Oliver, Planning Staff.
Holly Kramer, Planning.
Dave Pettin, Planning.
Emma.
Emma Canarajas, Planning Staff.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, those of you joining us online this evening, please.
Good evening, Jake Carpenter, CDOT.
Isaiah Washington, CDOT.
Travis Miller, CDOT.
Drew Ritter, CDOT.
Natalie King, CDOT.
All right, thank you all very much. Jumping into the agenda, I don't believe we have any deferrals this evening. So we will get started with item number 1, petition 2024-064 by JF Lawrence Properties LLC with, I guess Joe's out this evening. So Holly, is this you?
Yes, I'll take this one.
Thank you.
This site is a little over 7.5 acres along the north side of Shopton Road, east of Steel Creek Road, an area where we've had several industrial rezonings just to the east of this property, and some residential sites are to the west and industrial areas to the south as well. The site itself is currently zoned Neighborhood 1A Airport Noise Disclosure Overlay. They're proposing to go to MNL2 conditional, Manufacturing Logistics 2 conditional, and that Airport Noise Disclosure Overlay remains. At the time of the public hearing, you might have noticed that they were also proposing for a portion of the site to remain under an N1A zoning. They changed that at staff's request to just have the whole site under MNL2 conditional. The policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 police type for this site, so this petition would be inconsistent with that police type recommendation. The proposal itself is for up to is for the MNL2 uses. At the time of the public hearing, this is what we presented, which was 9,500 square feet non-residential uses with limit height to 80 feet, allowing for all uses that in the MNL2 conditional MNL2 district, with the exception of automobile service stations, repair garages, junkyards, petroleum storage facilities, landfills, quarries, and adult establishments. Established a 65-foot Class A landscape yard where adjacent to general commercial and N1A zoning, and established a 25-foot Class B landscape yard where adjacent to the I2 conditional zoning along the eastern property boundary. Since the public hearing, they proposed they modified the proposal to just limit it to MNL2 conditional across the site, removing that N1A portion and limiting the uses solely to a contractor office with outdoor storage. This is a code violation case, so they are currently operating a contractor office. So this would bring the site into compliance. Also limiting building height to 40 feet rather than the 80 feet at the time of the public hearing. And they also modified the site plan to clearly identify where on the site outdoor storage would be located. They resolved all outstanding issues and technical revisions. Staff now recommends approval of this petition. Given the site's context and where it sits proximal to other industrial sites, in the industrial zoning, we had 4 industrial projects just to the east of the site. And given that it doesn't really abut any sensitive land uses, we felt that this is an appropriate petition. It would have the Class A landscape yards along the western property boundaries, and this petition itself would resolve a code violation case. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions for this petition? All right, kicking things off with a bang. Happy to entertain a motion.
Donald, motion to approve.
Neely, second.
You have to read it all the way through,
Oh.
remember.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Out of practice.
That would be nice, though.
Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-064 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Neely, second.
All right, motion by McDonald, second by Neely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 2, petition 2024-073 by CLT Operations Holdings LLC with Max, please.
Petition 2024-073 is located along the north side of Allegheny Street, west side of Ashley Road, and south of Lindbergh Street. The site's approximately 1.519 acres and is a vacant out parcel. The current zoning is B1 CD ANDO, neighborhood business conditional airport noise disclosure overlay. The proposed zoning is CG CD ANDO, general commercial conditional airport noise disclosure overlay. 2040 policy map recommends the commercial place type of the site. CG district is consistent with this place type. A little background on the site. It's previously zoned B1 CD and permitted all commercial office, personal service uses allowed in the B1 district with the exception of fast food restaurants. This proposal calls for a 4,000 square foot commercial use with an accessory drive-through. Maximum building height is 50 feet. 8-foot sidewalk and 8-foot planting strip will be provided along the site's frontages with Allegheny and Ashley Road. Parking and drive-through areas will be screened from view from adjacent streets. Access to the site will be primarily provided from a full movement shared driveways. No new access points will be created on public streets. Staff recommends approval of this petition as it's consistent with the 2040 policy map recommendation. The current entitlements allow for commercial uses. Drive-throughs are permitted by right under prescribed conditions in the CG district, and the proposed plan exceeds the minimum design requirements for drive-throughs in CG. The site is located along Arterial Street. Pedestrian improvements are proposed, and the site has access to multiple bus routes. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Max. Any questions for this one? Commissioner Winiger.
I just wanted to say that the drive-through on this property and the fact that drive-throughs are allowed by right for any of these properties results in a terrible, terrible use of land. So I realize that's not the issue here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winiger. Any follow-up to that? On that note, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Shaw, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-073 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Stewart.
Motion by Shaw, second by Stewart. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Item number 3, petition 2024-106 by Drakeford Communities. And Michael, please.
Yeah, this is 2024-106. It's approximately 5.83 acres located along the north side of Rocky River Road, west of Pickering Drive and south of Back Creek Drive. The current zoning is neighborhood 1A. The proposed zoning is neighborhood 2A conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type, so this is an inconsistent petition. The proposal, it will allow up to 65 multifamily attached dwelling units. It does limit buildings to no more than 5 units per building in a townhouse style. Provides a 12-foot multi-use path and 8-foot a wide planting strip along the site's frontage of Rocky River Road to the east of the Greenway Path. Vehicular access will be via a private alley network. It does dedicate the area of the Back Creek Greenway to Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation. Provides a minimum 25-foot wide Class C landscape yard along the western portion of the property line adjacent to the single-family homes. Open space area shall consist of a minimum of 3 or more of the following components: enhanced planning, specialty paving material, shading elements, seating options that include movable tables and chairs, a minimum 20-foot dimension in all directions, public art, sculpture, and decorative lighting. The petitioner will contribute $25,000 to the Back Creek Church HOA for the purpose of a traffic improvement at the intersection of Rocky River Road and East W.T. Harris Boulevard, or other neighborhood improvements in coordination with with CDOT. They do provide enhanced architectural and design standards. Changes since public hearing, they have provided a tree survey and revised a dedication note. So they have no outstanding issues. Staff does recommend approval of this petition. The site is adjacent to several recently developed multifamily attached products along Rocky River Road, which is designated as the Neighborhood 2 place type. The site is within a half mile of goods and services to the east with an assemblage of neighborhood center properties at the intersection of Rocky River and W.T. Harris Boulevard. The subject property is within a housing gap according to the Equitable Growth Framework, and this petition does provide up to 65 dwelling units. The petition does include a connection to the future Back Creek Greenway, and it could facilitate the following comprehensive plan goals for 10-minute neighborhood diversity and inclusion, and trail and transit-oriented development.
Thank you very much, Michael. Any questions on this one, guys?
I have a question.
Yeah, Commissioner McDonald, please.
I'm curious where the Back Creek HOA comes into this, and I'm sorry, I could have probably figured this out earlier.
I think that was just in
Okay.
negotiation with the petitioner.
Okay.
My guess is they're probably within that radius where when you have a community meeting, they get notified. And so that was where their involvement came in. And then as a part of that community meeting, they were able to have a conversation with the petitioner and have some, basic list of requests.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, I think this one makes a lot of sense. Happy to entertain a motion.
Winokur, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move we recommend approval of petition number 2024-106 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement.
Second, Seeley.
All right, motion by Winokur, second by Seeley. All in favor, please say aye. Any against? All right, unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4, petition 2024-110 by Flournoy Development Group. And back to Michael again.
Allow.
Approval. West following.
Thank you. 0 to 50 feet, the build to structure, 60% of the building to be within the build to zone. So the proposes, and they propose the following public benefits for those exceptions. So dedication of 2 acres of open space to Mecklenburg County, sort of the public amenity. Construction of buildings to meet the National Green Building Standards, bronze standards, sort of meets the sustainability component. And contribution of $10,000 to the Mecklenburg County Parks and Recreation for park improvements in the Northeast Park District, so city improvement there. They're proposing a lot of transportation improvements, a southbound left turn lane with 100 feet of storage, and a separate through right lane on the proposed access A. Remark the existing pavement to allow for an eastbound left turn lane on David Taylor Drive with 100 feet of storage. They will install an ADA compliant bus stop on the David Taylor frontage of the site and along the opposite side of David Taylor Drive as well. They provide a 12-foot multi-use path and 8-foot wide planting strip on David Taylor Drive. Another 12-foot multi-use path and 8-foot wide planting strip on Public Street A. Then along the Claude Freeman Drive and Access B, a combined westbound left turn lane on proposed Access B. Remark the existing 2-way left turn lane to provide a southbound left turn lane on David Taylor Drive with 100 feet of storage. They provide an 8-foot sidewalk and 8-foot planting strip on Public Street B and also on Public Street C. Some of the changes since the public hearing, they've added a note to allow for the protection of existing trees along David Taylor Drive. And they removed one of the EX deviation request for the pedestrian entry requirements, which they no longer needed. So the petition is consistent with the 2040 policy map. So as you know, the EX petitions are a type of conditional rezoning that allows for flexibility in quantitative zoning and streetscape standards in exchange for the commitment to public benefits in at least 2 out of the 3 categories: city improvement, public amenities, and sustainability measures. The petition should be reserved for situations where extenuating circumstances make meeting ordinance standards an undue burden. So the public benefits include the 2-acre park, the NGBS bronze standards, and the contribution of $10,000 to Park and Rec. So this site has unique circumstances, which include a lot of challenging topography, water quality buffers, wetlands, and established mature tree canopy. That's why they're seeking those deviations. Access to housing is the highest priority need in this area, according to the EGF community reports. The site is primarily surrounded by non-residential developments, and the immediate area has relatively little housing. The proposed plan would increase the number of housing types in the area. Access to essential amenities, goods, and services is also a high priority. And the subject properties within the access for essential goods, services, and amenities gap, and the commitment to 7,500 square feet of commercial space and provisions for future non-residential uses on the site helps with that. So staff does recommend approval of this petition. I'd say questions.
Thank you very much, Michael. A lot going on with this one. Any questions, comments? Commissioner McDonald?
Did you say there's a provision, if the commercial, if there's in the future no demand or something changes as far as the viability for the commercial, that there's a provision to convert?
Developed after 5 years from the approval, the non-residential uses shall not be required.
Non-residential uses shall not be required. Okay. All right, thank you. I think, I'm delighted to see more housing, added in these areas. They're beautiful. The greenway is beautiful. That you can reach great, destinations and of course, employment opportunities via the greenway. So, to me, it's a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonald. Anybody else? Michael, my only question is around the contribution to Parks and Rec. I believe it was $10,000. Is that specifically around, when you look at the planned north side of this, there's the public park open space. Is that going to be dedicated specifically for the construction of that public park? Or is that just a general contribution to Parks and Rec?
A general contribution to Park and Rec, but for parks in that park district.
Okay, understood. And then do you have any clarity around, since that segment of the development is going to be phase 2, is there going to be any effort to lean into that open space earlier in the project, or is that kind of at a date to be determined? And the reason I ask is because when you look at the plan south, the phase 1, you don't have as much of that amenitized, or really, from what I'm seeing, hardly any amenitized open space. And so it would be great to see that park activated earlier in the process.
That I'm not sure when that's going to be activated.
Okay. That to me, that's an important question. Would you guys support a motion to suspend the rules to ask the petitioner's agent on that one? Okay. I would like to make a motion. Bridget, this is you, right? Bridget,
It is.
this is you? Okay. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to ask the petitioner's agent about the phasing of the project, especially as it relates to the construction of the public park and open space. I need a second.
Second.
All right, motion by me, second by Shaw. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Bridget, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, please.
They're just dedicating it.
This microphone also works too. And this also is, you feel like walking around.
Bridget Grant, land use consultant with Moore and Van Allen, here with Jay from Flournoy. One of the reasons why it's being phased, because as we mentioned, we were describing that there's a good bit of topography on the site. So the construction of the road is going to be done in phases for us to be able to access that portion of the site. So as soon as we're able to build the road to get all the way up to the top of the hill is when we're looking to amenitize that portion of the open space. I don't know.
Yeah, so we will mass grade the entire site, but the road and the traffic study has only been factored in for the one entrance on the south side of the plan. So right now, we will have it mass graded and we can dedicate it earlier, but the road network is not contemplated until starting aligning with our traffic study and the rezoning plan until that, I think it's the 321st unit is when that second part of the road network will be constructed.
Understood. And as a brief follow-up, if I may, is there going to be any sort of dedicated and or amenitized open space on the phase 1 portion of this site?
So not necessarily dedicated, but if you look at the plan, there are some areas here and here that will be available for public use. They won't be dedicated to Parks and Rec, but those will be available for public use.
Okay. Yeah, the dedication is not necessarily the most important part. It's just that there will be something amenitized so that the people moving into phase 1 aren't waiting until phase 2 to have access to anything.
Yeah,
right?
so this area here will be developed as part of phase 1, as well as this area down here. All of this down here will also be developed as part of phase 1, and also the multi-use paths along that public road will be available phase 1.
Okay, thank you very much. If anybody else has a question around that, please let me know. If not, thank you for your time. Any additional questions, feedback around this petition? All right, in that case, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Motion, Sealy, motion for approval. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-110, as well as the adoption of the associated consistency statement as they both appear before us.
Second McDonald.
All right, motion by Sealy with some flair to it, and a second by McDonald. All in favor, please say aye. Any against? No, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we have petition 2024-125 by Tay Holdings with Max, please.
Petition 2024-125 is located on the west side of Sonoma Valley Drive, east of Stony Ridge Drive, and north of Mount Holly Road. The site's approximately 8.47 acres and is currently undeveloped. Proposed zoning is MX2 Innovative, Mixed Use Innovative Conditional, and NS Neighborhood Services Conditional. Proposed zoning is N2A CD Neighborhood 2 Conditional. 2040 policy map recommends the Neighborhood 2 place type for this site. The N2 district is consistent with this place type. A little background on the site. Site was previously received rezoning approval in 2003 as part of a larger mixed-use development and allowed for up to 40 townhome units in this portion of the site. In 2021, the site received subdivision approval for the development of 31 townhome units. Proposal calls for the development of up to 39 multifamily attached dwelling units. The following streetscape and landscaping improvements are proposed. All a 10-foot Class C landscape yard will be provided along the side and rear of the site where abutting the neighborhood 1 place type. 40-foot setback will be provided adjacent to the lots in 1 place type. Street trees will be provided along private alleys. Direct pedestrian connections will be provided from all residential units to the public street. Architectural requirements are proposed. The maximum building height is 48 feet. Building shall contain a maximum of 6 dwelling units. And HVAC and solid waste areas will be screened from view. Following transportation improvements are proposed. Vehicular access will be provided via a private alley off of Sonoma Valley Drive. Petitioner will restripe Sonoma Valley Drive for a left turn lane into the site, and on-site visitor parking will be provided. Staff recommends approval of this petition upon resolution of outstanding issues related to environment, site, and building design, as it's consistent with the policy map recommendation. Would promote a variety of housing types, is abutting other properties designated into, as well as the community activity center place type, and the site is served by transit. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Max. Any questions on this one, guys? Two things. One, as far as the outstanding issues, is that where we're looking at the tree survey and kind of the wider variety of unit counts, those points at the bottom? Those are the outstanding issues?
Yes,
still?
those are the remaining outstanding
Okay, and
issues.
you feel comfortable that you'll be able to reach an agreement there?
Yeah, several have been addressed, and I think the remaining could be addressed prior to public hearing.
Okay,
I mean,
understood.
excuse me, decision.
Okay, thank you. And then the only other thing, I feel like we've had this conversation several times recently about how all the easy sites are gone. So want to applaud this this petitioner, excuse me, and several others tonight and over the last few months on working through difficult sites to add varieties of housing types and make these developments work. Barring anybody else's feedback, happy to entertain a motion.
Shaw, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and consider the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-125 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Neely, second.
Motion by Shaw, second by Neely. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes 7-0. Next, we have 2024-137 by Wilkes Asset Management. Back to you, Michael.
This is approximately 13.29 acres located along the west side of Johnson Ayler Road, north of Mallard Creek Road, and east of Prosperity Church Road. There you can kind of see it in The current zoning is neighborhood 1A. The proposed zoning is neighborhood 2A conditional. The 2040 policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type. So in this proposal, it allows up to 145 dwelling units in a combination of duplex, triplex, quadruplex, and or multifamily dwelling units. Access to the site will be provided by a new public local street off Johnson Ayler Road at the existing intersections of Morning Dove Lane and Song Sparrow Lane. It provides a pedestrian crossing with rapid flashing beacons and striping across Johnson Ayler Road. Provides a dedicated left turn lane into the site. Commits to a 30-foot setback along Johnson Ayler Road and commits to a 25-foot wide buffer to the school and the park. Common open space shall have a minimum width of 50 feet and a maximum length of 500 feet. They provide preferred design guidelines, including all buildings adjacent to Johnson Ayler Road will orient to Johnson Ayler Road with no more than 6 units in a building that has its primary frontage on Johnson Ayler Road. The changes since the public hearing, they have added a note to state the rezoning transportation improvements are required prior to the first certificate of occupancy unless otherwise identified and approved by CDOT. And they will revise a call out to say 8-foot sidewalk rather than a 6-foot sidewalk. Even though the petition is inconsistent with the policy map, the proposed development would fill a need for housing in an area that has been identified as lacking access to housing and opportunity by the 2040 comprehensive plan. The site is a thoughtful transition between the existing single-family neighborhood across Johnson Ayler Road to Mallard Creek Park and the Parkside Elementary School. Johnson Ayler Road is an appropriate buffer separating the single-family neighborhood from the site. And the site is adjacent to Mallard Creek Park, its recreation center, and schools with existing sidewalk, planting strip, and bike infrastructure accessible for any future residents. And the site is within a half-mile of a future Mecklenburg County Greenway. So we believe that this could facilitate a 10-minute neighborhood and the neighborhood diversity and inclusion. So with that, staff does recommend approval.
Thank you very much, Michael. Any questions on this one? Commissioner Seeley.
More of a statement than anything. Had a chance to drive over here. Never heard of Johnson Ayler Road before this petition. I was born and bred in Charlotte. You know, I felt like this project was fairly in context over there. It seems like it was a little bit downstream, if you will, as far as elevation goes. And because of that, I don't feel like it really will stick out like a sore thumb, quite like what was said to us at the hearing. So I'm in favor of this one because of, you know, our need for housing. And, you know, I really feel like this is the right level of density for this area.
Thank you, Commissioner Seeley. Commissioner Shaw.
Yeah, sorry, I had a chance to listen to the public hearing and was just, and I'm sorry if you said this, Michael, but the final commitment on the threshold of rentals was what?
That is. That I'm not sure of.
Okay.
At the moment, I think that's going to be between the petitioner and the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you need additional?
I believe that number was 20.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Anybody else? To piggyback for a second on Commissioner Seeley's point, I think Michael said it best when we talk about a gentle transition from single family to some more of the institutional uses, with Johnson Ayler being a big enough buffer to be, you know, to more than accommodate that. So, so on that note, happy to entertain a motion.
Neely, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-137 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Shaw, second.
Motion by Neely, second by Shaw. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have 2024-138 by Peak Development with Holly, I believe, correct?
Thank you. This site is just over 8.5 acres located along the north side of Shopton Road West, east of Kirkland Commons Drive, west of Corey Brett Lane. An area where we have a lot of single-family residential to the west and multifamily residential to the north, and a commercial shopping area along Shopton Road and Steel Creek area to the east. Current zoning is neighborhood 1A. They're proposing to go to neighborhood 1D conditional. The policy map recommends the neighborhood 1 place type, so this proposal is consistent with that. The proposal itself is for up to 60 duplex or detached single-family dwellings. This would be developed into N1D standards. Front loads units from the public street that it proposes through the site, commits to a classy landscape yard along the eastern and western property boundaries, commits to design standards for covered porch and stoops as predominant features, provides common open space along the public street, commits to several transportation improvements, including the restriping of Shopton Road West to provide a left turn lane into the new public street, 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalk along Shopton Road West, 8-foot planting strip and 6-foot sidewalk along the new north-south public street that will go through the site, and they will provide a street sub to the east for future connectivity to Corey Brett Lane. Since the public hearing, they committed to install the Class C landscape yard along the eastern and western property boundaries, as well as the 6-foot fence along both of those boundaries that would be adjacent to single-family homes. They provided a tree survey, confirmed that there are no deed restrictions that would prevent street sub to Corey Brett Lane, and resolved all transportation outstanding issues. Staff recommends approval of the petition. The proposal for a 60 duplex or single-family detached units is consistent with building forms and land uses encouraged in the neighborhood 1 place type, provides an opportunity for the site to be developed with greater density than the single-family detached neighborhoods that already exist in the area, while still maintaining single-family character. The proposal would be screened from adjacent properties with a commitment to a Class C landscape yard along those eastern and western property boundaries, though it is not required. And this is in addition to 100 feet at the rear of the site that would be set aside as green area and a watershed buffer. Site is located less than a half mile from goods and services along Shopton Road and Steel Creek Road, which helps to support a proposal for a more intense residential zoning district. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Holly. Any questions, comments? Again, just to reiterate the creativity to make some of these parcels work. On that note, happy to entertain a motion.
McDonald, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-138 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Neely, second.
Motion by McDonald, second by Neely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. Next, 2024-139 by True Foundation, True Homes. Back to Max, please.
Petition 2024-139 is located on the east side of Beatties Ford Road, north of Cindy Lane and west of Cindy Woods Lane. The site is approximately 4.91 acres and is currently undeveloped. Current zoning is N1B Neighborhood 1 and CG General Commercial. Proposed zoning is N1E CD Neighborhood 1 Conditional. 2040 policy map recommends the Neighborhood 1 place type. The site is consistent with the recommendation. Proposal calls for the development up to 29 single-family detached dwelling units. All units will be House Charlotte eligible and will be deed restricted to ensure affordability for a minimum of 7 years. Maximum building height is limited to 40 feet. Usable porches and stoops minimum 4 feet in depth will be provided. Preferred building materials including brick are proposed. Pitched roofs will have a minimum slip at 512. Shed porch roofs a minimum of 212. All transportation improvements and dedications of rights of way will be completed prior to the issuance of the first CO. Staff recommends approval of this petition as it is consistent with the policy map. would provide attainable housing and is within a quarter-mile of commercial uses such as retail, medical, and restaurant. Site also has access to transit. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Max. Any questions, comments? I don't have any on this one either. Motion, please.
Motion to approve McDonald. Having reviewed the petition and considered this consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-139 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Shaw, second.
Motion by McDonald, second by Shaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimous. 2024-142, item number 9 by Sates LLC to Emma, please. I wonder where Emma went.
Approximate, 2024-142 is approximately 1.50 acres located east of North Tryon Street along the south side of East Arrowhead Drive and north of North Hills Circle. The current zoning is ML1 Manufacturing and Logistics, and the proposed zoning is TOD-NC Transit Oriented Development Neighborhood Center. The 2040 policy map recommends the manufacturing and logistics place type for the site. This is a conventional petition, therefore there is no associated site plan. Even though the petition is inconsistent with the 2040 policy map, recent rezonings in the area in the surrounding area has designated the neighborhood parcels as transit-oriented development. TOD-NC is well suited for areas near transit corridors and is designed to support a mix of uses while promoting walkability and transit use. I'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Emma. Any questions on this one? I just have one. At what point, knowing that the policy map calls this area out for ML1, at what point do you kind of hit a critical mass of a different zoning class to change the policy map recommendation on that? Does that make sense? And that may be a question for Dave. But looking at this, it looks like, I mean, there's already significantly more TOD than ML1. And at what point does that kind of change the area in its entirety so that you're not conflicting with policy map recommendations? Does that make sense?
It does. That's something we'd probably have to talk to the long range planning team about. I don't think this is slated for any changes on the revised policy map. I think they're still looking at some of the existing zoning, but certainly we can flag this one and talk to them as they're working through having that draft put out and hopefully up for adoption over the next couple months. But we'll certainly flag this area because there seems to be more TOD after this potential rezoning gets approved than there is industrial. So yeah, certainly we'll flag it for them.
I appreciate that. And again, nothing about this petition specifically, but more the area as a whole.
Yeah. It seems like it's made that transition already.
Right,
So.
right. That's my point. Any additional comments? All right, motion, please.
Stewart, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-142 as it appears before us and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Seeley.
All right, motion by Stewart, second by Seeley. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous again. Item number 10, 2024-146 by Panthers Stadium LLC. Holly, to you, please.
Stadium site is just over 25 acres located in the 3rd Ward of within Uptown along Mint, Graham, and Moorhead Streets. The site is currently zoned Uptown Core. They're requesting an exception conditional rezoning petition. This request is consistent with the policy map's recommendation for the Regional Activity Center place type. So it is just going from Uptown Core to Uptown Core EX. The exception conditional rezoning process allows petitioners to request flexibility from quantitative and certain qualitative zoning standards in exchange for offering public benefits in 2 out of 3 categories: sustainability, public amenity, and city improvement. The proposal itself would allow for all UC uses, and it specifically calls out stadium, practice training facilities, live performance venues, among others that are certainly applicable for the site. Includes public benefits, calls out publicly accessible open space for areas to be maintained at a minimum of 25% greater than full ordinance requirements. So this would be satisfying that public amenity category. The publicly accessible open space would include elements of decorative plantings, landscape seatings, pedestrian scale lighting at the time of permitting. Additional elements would be improved to the open space areas before May 31st of 2030. Open space areas must have a minimum size of 1,500 square feet and a minimum dimension of 25 feet in any direction. And this is the proposal as it was presented at the time of public hearing. So I'll go over a few of the changes that we've had to the language since then. But at the time of the public hearing, it called out for minimum dimension of 25 feet in any direction. Location of the areas would shift over time as development takes place or activities and operations are adjusted. Such areas would be closed periodically due to security and safety needs. Petitioner has also called out for city improvement public benefit categories. This includes 2 public pedestrian pathways. So there's construction of a 10-foot pedestrian pathway connection between Moorhead Street and Mint Street. Should be accessible to the public with limited restrictions. There's also a new or adjusted construction of a minimum 10-foot shared use path connection as a continuation of the shared use path connection from the practice facility site that we would have seen last spring. That would extend from the existing tunnel under railroad underpass to connect to Graham Street. Dependent upon physical constraints, path shall be accessible to the public with limited restrictions. If the petitioner is unable to provide these first priority city improvement pedestrian paths due to factors beyond their control, they have also identified alternative benefits that they would be providing. And those alternative benefits include committing to providing sidewalk improvements to support pedestrian mobility of 250 feet of existing substandard sidewalk along the Duke Energy substation. And they would also improve the sidewalk to 6 feet in width and commits to install pedestrian crossing improvements at Graham Street. In terms of the EX provisions themselves, they're requesting a number of site and building standards EX provisions related to increasing the build to zone, decreasing the build to percentage, decreasing the minimum building height, decreasing the minimum building height for smaller accessory structures, increasing the maximum building length, increasing blank wall areas, decreasing minimum ground floor height, and decreasing ground and upper floor transparency. They also request an EX provision to increase max height of lighting and delaying those extinguishing times. That's just, again, these are all very specific to stadium uses. Request an EX provision to allow maneuvering surface parking, driveways, and circulation to be reconfigured on the site, but may not increase in size and may not be located within the established setback, may be located within the established setback, but may not be located within the required setback. Request an EX provision related to increasing the maximum distance of bicycle parking from a building entrance. Request an EX provision to allow parking structure design option D. Request EX provisions related to signage. Request EX provisions for street standards. Existing curb line along West Moorhead Street frontage shall remain rather than be relocated, so that the future back curb is 30 feet from the center line. Graham Street and Mint Street standards require a 10-foot sidewalk and 8-foot amenity zone with tree grates. The petitioner would provide a 10-foot sidewalk with flexibility to provide alternative planting conditions, such as planting strips that can vary in width based off site constraints. Commits to provide a maximum total of 40 short-term bicycle parking spaces, and notes that the petitioner may seek administrative approval of a master signage package for the site. Separate from those EX provisions, they've also noted a couple of transportation commitments. So streetscape improvements to West Moorhead will be made as new development occurs. Each of the transportation improvements will be completed prior to May 31st, 2030, and that includes streetscape improvements along West Moorhead Street. And to be issued, and these improvements would be constructed before certificate of occupancy is issued for new building expansions or new building expansions or new buildings in total that are 20,000 square feet or greater within development areas B1 or B2. And these notes again are as presented at public hearings, so I just want to keep that in mind. Streetscape and transportation improvements along Mint and Graham Streets shall be constructed before a certificate of occupancy is issued for new building expansions or new buildings of 20,000 square feet or greater within development areas A1 and or B4. So since the public hearing, we addressed all of our technical revisions, increased the minimum depth of the public open space for the public amenity EX benefit from 25 feet to 30 feet for that minimum depth, revised the city improvement public benefit language in coordination with CDOT to strengthen that commitment, provide further details on when those pathways must be constructed by. They clarified the site constraints that they're dealing with and what efforts would be made to work around such, and increase the minimum width of the second pathway from the railroad underpass to Graham Street to 12 feet where they have site constraints and 16 feet wherever possible. And that's up from the 10-foot commitment that was previously stated. Address outstanding issues on transportation provisions regarding street improvements and revise when street improvements would be triggered. So previously it had that 20,000 square footage. So they worked with CDOT and landed on a 5,000 number that satisfies CDOT's request. And noted on the plan, the petitioner will work with urban forestry to preserve existing trees along Mint and Graham Streets, but health of trees, site conditions, development, special features, other similar factors may result in the need to remove trees. And this note is in response to urban forestry comments, and urban forestry was satisfied with this language. And so we are all squared away on all of our outstanding issues except for one, where we have just a couple of minor things to work on with the public amenity language. And since we had that most recent revised site plan following the public hearing, the petitioner has been working to resolve that last issue about the public amenity language regarding open space. And they provided really detailed updates for us about how the final site plan is going to address it. So as a result, the final plan will add details regarding quantities of elevated open space features that will occur throughout the open space by May 31st, 2030. Those quantities would include commitments such as 1 tree per 2,000 square feet or 250 square feet of ornamental beds per 2,000 square feet. The petitioner will also add language on the inclusion of a public art feature. That's also as requested by staff. Public art feature would be installed by May 31st, 2030. And the petitioner would reference the city's list of artists in the creative pool when selecting an artist and would interview at least one candidate from the list. And the art would be located so that it is pretty visible to the public. And so with those changes coming in the final site plan that will be submitted this week, we think that all of our outstanding issues are going to be resolved. And so staff will be on track to recommend approval of this petition. I'll say developments such as stadiums and their associated facilities result in really unique zoning scenarios that challenge our typical zoning and ordinance standards. So we have to use these innovative solutions like an EX request to deal with these regulatory limitations. So these conditional petitions through EX offer a mechanism for us to flex our typical standards so that we can get public benefits as a positive outcome, but also allow for development that can't otherwise meet typical site and building design zoning district standards. So the petition commits to several public benefits in exchange for those EX provisions. The publicly accessible open space and pedestrian pathways will enhance public use and functionality of the site while extending mobility options to surrounding areas. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Holly. That was a lot. I missed the part where they're going to put a dome on the stadium, though. No, all jokes aside, I want to take a quick minute before we get into the weeds here to thank the petitioner, the petitioner's agent, the community, and several of the commissioners here as well. There has been a lot of communication and some very transparent conversations about this, as would be expected for what is a city landmark, right? So, so again, want to thank everybody for really leaning into this. And on that note, happy to go ahead and open the floor to Commissioner Winiger, because I know that you want to talk.
Well, hopefully I won't chew up all of our time saved so far on this. There was a few slides that this is the, I just wanted to, I asked for these slides to be available just to tee up a question to Jake Carpenter, to ask Jake to explain basically what are the three provisions that are contemplated in the current language relating to the pedestrian walkway on the north side of the stadium. And then after Jake's answer and whatever other questions people have for him, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Caroline Wright from Tepper Sports to briefly answer a question, and that is, what are the plans, given that there's a roadway right there? What are Tepper Sports' intentions as far as the development of this pedestrian amenity? So the Uptown Cycle Link approved, this preliminary plan approved with a lot of public input in 2021. The community members that I've been in touch with and have provided really excellent feedback have included Wesley Heights, Seversville, Middleville, and Smallwood. And they are vociferous in asking that the Uptown Cycle Link plan be implemented. And this is a very important part of it. Next one, please. And this is the location that we're talking about. You can see the roadway and the pedestrian path that goes underneath the rail lines. Thanks. And this is the beginning of it. And next one. And this is the middle of it. And there's some elevation changes, but if you could go to the next slide. I wanted to point this out. I was down in this area recently. This is in Chippendale and Pearson. It connects the Oakwald and Oakhurst neighborhoods back where that road is that leads along the Walmart Supercenter. And if you can go to the next slide, incredibly challenging topography, but CDOT, no problem. You know, they can knock this out. And so in terms of any challenges to this pedestrian path, it certainly is achievable. And, you know, for $650 million, it'll be an excellent path. It'll be fantastic. So with that said, I wanted to also thank very much Jake and his team at CDOT. They've carried a lot of water in terms of getting this language approved. I give CDOT a real hard time, but they've done a great job on this. And Jake, with that, if you could explain what the three options are.
Can you clarify your question about options?
Certainly. There were different potentials depending on outcomes relating to easement that is contemplated in the current language. You had discussed this with me the other day, and I was just going to ask you if you could repeat what we discussed the other day in terms of what is envisioned.
Thanks. I would say that from an option standpoint, you know, CDOT is meeting with the petitioner and the petitioner's team to vet the options for, you know, the engineering side and what this can look like and what the options are for construction and getting to the most viable, highest design path that we can get. But I wouldn't necessarily say that I have the options available to share or that we've really seen the design of the options, but we're working through it with the petitioner. So there are challenges, as has been mentioned, and I'm sure that the petitioner will mention, with the grade between the current path under the railroad and Graham Street, as well as, you know, some adjacent properties, the railroad and some other issues. So I do not have any options to share for what the design will look like, but we have been in contact with the petitioner to start that process of you know, what the best design looks like.
Jake, I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And with that said, then I'd make a motion to suspend the rules to allow Caroline Wright from Tepper Sports to explain what the petitioner intends to do with respect to this path.
Second.
Motion by Winokur to suspend the rules, second by Shaw. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. If you wouldn't mind, please introducing yourself, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, Caroline Wright, Chief Venues Officer, Tepper Sports and Entertainment. Thank you very much for your time, and certainly thank you to everyone. This is no short of complicated. The path, we have two first priority paths. I'll go with a simpler one along Moorhead and Mint. It's essentially a shortcut as you walk along Mint to be able to go on the inside of the highway instead of going under the highway on 2 underpasses and then coming out at Moorhead and continuing on. So that's one of the paths. The second path is the path that was shown, and I'm not sure if there's a better picture there if you want, but the path has considerable elevation change, as mentioned by Jake. And so our considerations as a member of the community and part of the neighborhood is to make sure that we have consistent ability to use the path to get back and forth underneath the tracks. We have property on both sides. As you know, we zoned one of the properties earlier this year, and this is now the second half of that. So we function every day using the pathway and want the community to continue to use the pathway as well. The complication is a couple of things. Between the tracks and Graham Street is elevation. So the accessibility requirements, whether you go with outdoor at 5% or the alternative at 8%, we've got to figure out how to best do that. We have Duke in the mix. We have Charlotte Water, who is utilities underneath the road. And we have Norfolk Southern, which currently we're having some erosion issues. And we've got a lot of mud that's coming down from the tracks and crossing the pathway right now. And so we want to make sure that we're very thoughtful and considerate of all of the parties involved, but making sure that we're not ripping it up, doing it, and then doing it again based on trying to get everybody all on the same page. That pathway has considerable use and currently traverses on the south side of the entrance to the stadium. And ideally, you would have the pathway on the north side of that road so that there is no interconnectivity between what's coming into the stadium as the main entrance from a trucking perspective and where the pedestrians and families and cyclists and so on want to traverse down. So in terms of where we're at right now, this is our existing drive, but the path is on the interior. And as you can see, the path directly crosses where all of our vehicular traffic goes. So 89 trucks for Beyonce are going through here, and it's quite the disturbance. So our goal would be to look at options to move the path to the other side of the drive. That way, reducing the amount of conflict between those using the path on a regular basis and the business as a whole. So given all of our neighbors and all of the people involved, we wanted to make sure that we were being thoughtful about the design, about considering those and making sure the path is barrier-free. And before we get into engineering the design, that we've considered everyone at the table. So that is our first priority. We know that there are some challenges there, and we want to make sure it's safety first.
This would be the potential improvement of the movement.
So when you look at an option related to accessibility, you would need to make sure that you have a bit of a terrain management here in order to make sure you have the right grade, and then you would have potentially a shorter alternative path, and you would look to realign the drive and move it to the other side. Therefore, the business is not disrupting the community as much as it is today. It's our main entrance. There's no other entrance. It's where our loading dock is and where we load in all of our shows. And so there's a lot of people there, including the fact that when we do have events, we have a considerable number of fans and ticket holders who are parking on the other side of the track. So really critically important to us for continuance of the path. Our customers use it, the community uses it, we use it on a daily basis. So want to make sure we're being thoughtful and considerate.
And thank you very much. My only other comment on this is that the neighborhood also wanted to emphasize that it'll be important in these designs that we're not just talking about foot traffic during events. This is a path that's used extensively, not only by Tepper Sports folks, but also community members, because it's extremely difficult to cross a lot of these highway barriers that have been put up. And so this is not just foot traffic or just handicapped access for ADA compliance, but also designed for bike traffic as well. So that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Winiger. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? The only thing I really have to add, and Rick said it well, is I don't want to minimize the importance of all of the other components of this rezoning request, but I do think that part of the emphasis, or part of the reason, excuse me, for the emphasis on this path has to do with the fact that for the most part, the stadium is used by the general public on game days and for concerts, right? This path is the one thing that is used 7 days a week by a significant share of people. And so just want to reiterate, that's why there is so much emphasis on how this is done. Caroline said it well. I think that, and Commissioner Shaw just said this to me a minute ago, it is in no one's interest more than the Panthers and Tepper Sports and Entertainment to get this done right. So I have every confidence they will do so. And while I wish that we could see the finished product as a part of this meeting, it doesn't always work out that way. The only other thing to add is that I appreciate the attention to detail. I appreciate the public artwork. I appreciate using a local artist to do that, and the amenitization of the, let's call it a campus as a whole. And I'm excited to see over the next 5 years. I think that 2030 was the delivery date for a lot of this. I'm excited to see what comes of it, both as a Charlotte native, as a Panthers PSL owner, and a frequenter of that facility. Anybody else before we take a motion? Commissioner Seeley.
I changed my mind. I do want to say one thing. I just hope that we take the opportunity in this case to really have NCDOT's ear for how we can improve Graham Street as a whole. This is one of my least favorite places in Uptown, just across the street. We shouldn't have to fear for our lives when walking on an urban street only, 2 blocks from really the central area of Uptown Charlotte and on South Tryon. So since we have their ear, let's do what we can, because, there's a part of Graham Street here that has maybe a 12-inch wide sidewalk. And anything we can do to improve that is really helpful here. So especially as we're discussing things with, or you guys are discussing things with the property owners like Duke through this process. But that's all I got to say here. I support this. So
Thank you, Commissioner Seeley. Ready for a motion, please.
Stewart, motion to approve. Having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition, I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-146 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it appears before us.
Second, Seeley.
Motion by Stewart, second by Seeley. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. That brings us to our final petition of the evening, item 11. It's petition 2024-147 by Christina Septimio. And Holly, I believe you're taking us home on this.
Yes, this site is just over 2 acres located along the east side of North Graham Street, north of Kennedy Street, south of Johnson Road, in an area that is predominantly industrial along this portion of Graham Street, but we have some residential areas to the south and as well as to the east and parkland to the east as well. The current zoning is manufacturing logistics 2, and they are proposing to go to innovation mixed use conditional. The policy map recommends manufacturing logistics place type, so this petition is considered inconsistent with that policy map recommendation. And if adopted, if approved, this petition would change the adopted place type from manufacturing logistics to the innovation mixed use place type. This is a conditional petition. It doesn't have a full site plan, but it does include one condition noting that it would prohibit residential uses. The Innovation Mixed Use District allows for a real range of uses, retail, office, light industrial, artisanal industrial, as well as a whole host of residential uses. But given its context in that it's entirely surrounded by industrial uses, some limited commercial uses, but generally industrial uses in that area, it didn't seem like an appropriate site for residential uses, and the petitioner has called out that they would prohibit residential uses on this site. Staff recommends approval of this petition. It is located along the North Graham North Street corridor of opportunity area. And this petition to convert the entitlements from a purely industrial type of zoning district to a zoning district that could allow a more balanced mix of uses would better align with the goals of the North Graham North Tryon Street corridor. And this petition's condition to prohibit residential uses is appropriate given the surrounding context of an industrial nature. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Holly. Any questions on this one? Tell you what, it meets the Sealy rule. At least there's a building on it. Otherwise, we'd have a problem. Happy to entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Sealy, having reviewed the petition and considered the consistency statement prepared by staff to approve this petition. I move that we recommend approval of petition number 2024-147 as it appears before us, and the adoption of the consistency statement as it also appears before us.
Shaw, second.
Motion by Sealy, second by Shaw. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening. Ricky,